Hey guys, I'm Andréane and welcome to my channel, The Minimal Approach. Today I will show you how I did a raincoat using the closet case pattern Kelly Anorak. I'm very proud of this make and I highly recommend this pattern. This project was a bit ambitious since I learned to sew in August of 2017. It was a huge challenge for me. I thought I would share how I did this with you guys since I know this project is on the bucket list of many sewists out there. All the steps that I will be describing in this video are basically a mix between the instruction booklet and the blog post on the Closet Case Pattern website. Since I really learned by seeing an example, I thought I would do this tutorial as an extra support for this pattern. You will need light to medium weight fabric. I used nylon that's water resistant and lightweight fusible interfacing. You'll also need 13 snaps, a 26-inch zipper with the pull on the left side, 1.3 meters of 5 millimeters drawstring, 2 grommets, and a marking tool. So I did a size 10, but since this project is a huge investment of your time, I highly recommend that you measure yourself before choosing the size you'll do, because I measured myself after I cutted the fabric by curiosity because I wanted to try my body model application, and I realized I was never a size 10, so that's why all my pants are too big and most of the garments I'm making are too big. I was not using the correct measurements for like almost a year now, so I highly recommend that you just measure yourself just to verify and double check your measurements and make sure you do the correct size the first time. Also, this pattern is designed for someone that's 5'6". I'm 5'3", so I should have definitely cut it like 3 inches on the length of the pattern, which I didn't do. Don't know why. I think I was so excited about this project that I just went ahead and cut the fabric, and after that I was like, oh, maybe I should have like done this differently. But anyway, so I highly suggest that you check out the length before you cut the fabric. I did view A, and just an interesting fact, this pattern has 18 pieces, so it's the biggest project I've ever done. There were many pieces, so I highly suggest you that you keep it very organized so you don't lose your time trying to find pieces. Here I started by assembling the back. As you can see, I folded the bottom edge of the back yoke, matching single notches. With right side together, I line up the notches of the back yoke and the back piece at the armhole. I marked 16 millimeters from the edge, and that's where I will sew the back yoke onto the back piece. Okay, so this step isn't shown, but after I did this, I folded the back yoke at the shoulder seam, made sure everything was nice and even, and I created this kind of pleat, and I top stitched the yoke piece between the double notches. Time to assemble the front. Here you can see I trimmed the edge of the right front jacket and the front yoke. With right side together, I pinned the front yoke to the front piece. The left side is not cut and it's interspaced, as you can see. I did the same for both sides. Since this jacket won't be lined, I did flat fell seams, as you can see, as I'm cutting one seam allowance to prepare that finishing. Time to assemble the pocket. Here I folded the edge of the pocket facing and stitched the fold into place. Then I finished the edge with an overcast stitch. With right side together, I stitched the pocket facing over the pocket extension and sew between the circles on the pattern. In order to secure the pocket facing to the pocket extension like that, I turned right side out on the pocket facing. Before that, I clipped the corners to make sure they lay flat. Here I folded the edge of the pocket twice, Once 16 millimeters for all the sides, and the second time it was only the outer sides on 25 millimeters. Here I pinch the corners right side together and I sew a straight stitch. Then I trim close to the edge to get a neat corner. Before that, I clip the corners to make sure they lay flat. Next, I installed the snap. I did a tryout on a scrap piece of fabric because it was the first time I installed snaps and it worked well. My only advice is to use one big hit to do the hole because otherwise you may move a bit and the hole might end up being too big. The next part made me a bit nervous because I really wanted to get it right. I wanted symmetrical pockets, so I used the pattern as a guide to figure out where to place the pockets. I made sure by measuring the distance between the edge of the jacket and my pocket that it was parallel to the jacket center front. When I did the second pocket, I relied mostly on the position of the other, because what mattered the most is that they're symmetrical. Once I pinned the pocket into place, I top stitched the bottom and long side edge of the pocket, and then I top stitched the short edge into place. One step that isn't shown is that I top stitched the corner edge of the pocket before putting it on the jacket. To assemble the body of the jacket, this pattern used the burrito method. The first step is to align the front and the back, wrong sides together, and sew together at the shoulder seam. The second step is to lay the jacket flat with the front facing up. Then I rolled from the bottom to the top. Notice here that I did not capture the back yoke. The back yoke is folded over the roll. I matched the shoulder seams and I stitched the back yoke with the front and the back piece. Now it's time to birth the coat, as they say. I pulled the roll through the neckline. I used French seams for the sides, so with wrong sides together, I aligned the side edge of the jacket and I stitched it together. Then I did the same thing but with the right sides together to conceal the previous seam. Here I used a pattern to place the grommets. To do the holes for the grommets, I used a seam ripper. I really do not recommend this method since it's not precise at all. I basically just did an X with my seam ripper, a little smaller than the diameter of the grommets. Then I used both upper and lower piece of the grommet, used a little tool that was provided with the grommets, and I put it into the lower piece and hammer it down. Time to do the drawstring casting. With right sides together, I assembled the front and the back drawstring pieces. Next, I laid the casting flat on the inside of the jacket and made sure it was parallel to the back yoke piece. I also tried the jacket on at this point to place the casting where my waist is to get a good fit. I top stitched the upper part of the casting in place and then I inserted the drawstring. Then I stitched the lower part of the casting. Time to sew the plackets. I did the right placket first, I folded in two, I stitched the bottom, turned it right side out and basted it along the edge. Here I aligned the right placket with the right side of the jacket, placing the stitch end at the top. and I stitched the placket onto the jacket. As you can see here, I stitched the right zipper face down on the top right facing. Here I folded along the longest side on the bottom right facing and I stitched it in place. Now with right sides together, I aligned the top right facing with the bottom right facing, the zipper side with the unfold side. To make sure the zipper was working, I assembled the left piece with the right zipper. At this point, I was quite impressed with how neat the zipper looked. Now I lined up the right placket with the top facing right sides together. Here it's what it looks like when you turn it right side out. One step that isn't represented is that I stitched the right side jacket front with the bottom facing along the bottom edge without catching the right placket. Also, I finished the hem with bias binding. Here I pinned the left part of the zipper face down directly on the edge of the left jacket and I stitched it into place. I folded twice the edge of the left zipper shield, then I folded in two wrong sides together. Now with right sides together, I aligned the edge of the left zipper shield with the left center front. Then, with right sides together, I stitch along the bottom edge of the facing to assemble the shield with the jacket. After I turned it right side out, I top stitched next to the zipper teeth. For the hood, I used the three pattern pieces, which are the center panel, the side panels, and the hood facing. As you can see here, I already sewed together one side panel to the center panel. I did flat felt seam, and it was not easy because these are very curvy seams. I did the same for the second side panel. I assembled both hood facing at their center, and then with wrong sides together, I pressed along the longest edge of the facing. With right sides together, I assembled the hood facing to the hood. When I turned it right side up, it looked like that. Next step is to top stitch the edge of the facing on the hood. Here I stay stitched the neckline to add more stability. Now with right sides together, I stitched the hood to the jacket. To finish this seam, I used some bias tape. The step that took me the longest is to assemble the sleeve and to set them into the jacket. But it's because I did a mistake. I did two right sleeves. These sleeves are made with three pieces, the top, the bottom, and the cuff. As you can see here, the result is very neat and I'm proud. Although, since I did two right sleeves, I had to start all over again for one of those sleeves. First off, I cut the extension on the top sleeve following the instruction on the closet case pattern blog. Then I cut half of the extension on the bottom sleeve. Then I folded right sides together the left extension of the bottom sleeve. With right sides together, I stitched the top and the bottom sleeve together, starting from the edge that had the extension part. I stitch up all the way to the top. I I folded again the bottom sleeve starting from the bottom so that I could create a flat fell seam, and I stitch it into place. I folded the top sleeve bottom part, then I top stitched it. I also did a bar tack to secure the opening in place. I lined up the other side seam and did the other flat fell seam. That one was a bit more tricky because I had to readjust the fabric every few stitches the machine did, because there's like no more room and it's getting very small and crowded area. To sew the cuffs, I folded the seam allowance of the non-interfaced edge. Now with right sides together, I folded when the interfacing ends. Before I stitched together the short ends, and since I cut the sleeve extensions, I tried to fit the cuff on the sleeve opening to make sure I get it right. With right sides together, I pinned the interfaced side of the cuff to the sleeve opening. Here I turned the right side up of the cuff to stitch it in place. Next, I gathered a bit the sleeve and I set it in the armhole. It took me forever because I did a very large French seam at the side because I was afraid the jacket was being too big. So the armhole ended up being too small and the sleeve was larger than the armhole, so it was impossible for me to set it in. I had to redo my French seam at the side close to the armhole. When that was done, I finished the armholes with bias tape to give more room. Now the only thing that's left to do is to set in the snaps. I asked for help because there was a lot to do, and my father gladly stepped in and we did them together. I'm very pleased with this result. I learned a lot in the process of doing it. It required a lot of patience as I made few mistakes along the way, and one of the sleeves is not perfect, so I might do it again one day, but I will leave it as is for now because I'm happy with the result, and I think I will get a lot of views out of this coat. I love that there's a hood, I love the drawstring at the waist, and I think it's a beautiful project to do. I will insert shots of me wearing the coat for you to see how the fit is, and I will show a bit of the finishing as well. So as far as lessons learned, I really think I need to plan my sewing better. I didn't take into account that that project would take me longer, so I initially thought I would use this spring. Obviously it didn't happen because I had to gather all the supplies and everything, and it took longer than I expected because there are some techniques I didn't know. So anyway, it's just can be a little bit disappointing when you're thinking of like, oh, I'll wear this for spring, but then it's only ready in July. So I will get to wear this coat probably only in October or September maybe. It's a bit discouraging. Now all I want to sew is summer stuff and very drapey dresses or something like that, and I end up with a raincoat. So definitely something I want to plan better. Every month I'm doing a bullet journal and I change it every month to see what planning suits me better. So that's still a work in progress. I will definitely try to take into account how long it takes me to do a piece. Also, I need to be realistic about the time I can spend in my sewing practice. I do have a full-time job. I go to hot yoga many times a week, so there's not that much time left. And also I'm doing this channel, so I need to edit the videos, I need to film it, so there's lots of activities going on into my life, so I need to really be realistic, and I need to sleep, so I need to take that into account as well. I'd like to know in the comments if you ever did the Kelly Anorak, if you liked your experience, or have you ever sewn a jacket before? Is it a plan that you have? Is it on your bucket list? Just let me know in the comments. So anyway, this is it for today's video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel so far, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next sewing video.